Okay, Ashley, can I have roll call, please?
Yes. Melby,
Here.
Jurdy. Here. Erickson,
Here.
Briggs,
Here.
Cavalier,
Here.
Kressel,
Here.
Platt,
Here.
Vedbratton.
Here.
Okay, it's time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, they come to the podium, state your first and last name and address, please. Hearing none. Chad, anybody on the phone bridge, please?
No, not this evening, Your Honor. I will close the bridge.
Thank you.
Agent logged off.
Okay, no presentations. This brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from tonight's agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
We got Delane. Discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy. Aye. Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Vedbratton.
Aye.
Okay, brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you, Clayton. Is there a second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Thank you, Christie. Roll call, please.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Vedbratton.
Aye.
Okay, no public hearings. Regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Item 8.01 is a resolution to approve the rental rehabilitation loan program mortgage satisfaction to Willard and Linda Nephew, husband and wife, DBA WLN Properties LLC, document number A000649788.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So move.
Thank you, Wayne.
Second.
Second by Don. Thank you. Discussion. Corky, please.
This is the first of two mortgages that Nephew's had. This one involves the loan of about approximately $12,000 to them if they maintain the property for 5 years or longer. The loan would be forgiven, and they maintain the property for 5 years or more.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Vedbratton.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.02 is a resolution to approve the rental rehabilitation loan program mortgage satisfaction to Willard and Linda Nephew, husband and wife, DBA WLN Properties LLC, document number A000649789.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Thank you, Steve. Is there a second by Don? Thank you. Discussion. Corky, a little update?
This is the second of the two mortgages to the nephews. This was one that actually required them to pay back the amount that they were borrowed, again, approximately $12,000, which they did. Each of these satisfactions has been requested as the nephews are now transferring the property.
Thank you.
And by the way, they were initiated in 2008.
So should they have been satisfied before now or like completed before now?
They could have been satisfied. Typically, the procedure in the city is to wait until there's a request at the time of a conveyance or other transfer. We probably have in excess of 20 to 30 of these types of mortgages, and for us to seek them all out would be cumbersome, so we just wait till we're requested.
Okay.
Thank you, Corky. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Erickson. Briggs. Cavalier.
Aye.
Kressel.
Aye.
Platt.
Aye.
Vedbretten.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Item 8.03 is a resolution to amend the State of Minnesota grant contract with respects to improving sites along the Red Lake River corridor, including Central Park.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you, Clayton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Discussion. Corky.
Is Central Park gonna be able to be used at all this summer for campers? Because I know last summer, there was a lot of questions about why they couldn't be using it.
Well, I know last summer is, thinking something was gonna be done down there. They never applied for the, is it the permit from the state? So that kinda came and went, so we couldn't open it. That was the reason, but we did apply for the permit this year. I'm sure it's gonna be used.
I thought I.
Sarah?
Okay,
In fact, the park was open to campers today. I can check, Tom, to make sure that it's open for not only camping, but for campers.
okay.
Perhaps Jake Solberg can answer that as he strides to the mic.
Hello. The campground did open. We opened today. Last week, we spent a lot of time down there. We put some Class 5 in to some of the spots that hit the low areas. Kind of redid them on the sites. Our bathhouse, we cleaned it out. Maureen was working on it today again. Got all the power turned back on. Otter Tail came on Friday afternoon, and then we had an inspection done on Friday, and they gave us the go-ahead, and Friday afternoon, I put out a public release to the city that we opened today. So Donnie and Ricky are working, so.
Are we gonna have a host down there again this summer?
A host, I don't know anything about a host.
Park Ranger, the guys you
Yep,
just
sorry,
said.
yep, Rick and Donnie, excuse me,
Okay.
yep. So,
Sounds
they got
good.
their
Thank you.
schedule done and they're all set to go, ready to work, so,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have they redone any bid appraisals on this thing? I mean, it was a 1.49 million 3 years ago. So if we do go through this and this process proceeds, you're not gonna build it for 1.49 million, so where are we at with that?
To my knowledge, there's been no rebidding, no other quotes to receive, but I can sure check on that to see.
Well, if we're gonna keep this in limbo for whatever, another year, do some homework, is where we're gonna come up with our half, because what we had to put in when this first originated is not gonna be what it is now, so it's gonna be quite a bit difference.
I can work with Jake on that to check to see. And just so you know, this is really amending the contract in two distinct areas. One, it extends it through June of 2024, the River Corridor grant for completion. And it just designates me, instead of Shannon Stassen, as the fiduciary on behalf of the city.
I know that I'm hearing, part of the drawings too is that we wanted to also have a safe house down there. But with COVID and the price of materials and supply and demand, I guess, I don't think that's gonna be feasible. So we're just looking to, do a new bathhouse at this point, and, but then once again, if we got until 2024, I don't know, I'd like to see it done sooner than later, before 2 years out, if we could get probably the ball rolling again on bids and see.
I'll work with Jake on this, and also I think we'll have to look at Rich Clausen to help construct the bid terms.
Because there is already kind of a blueprint for the layout of the campsite, so.
Because there was a significant amount contributed to this, but I know ours was still a huge amount to.
Right.
It was
put
like
in.
400,000
So I
plus.
don't see us doing that, because it's from,
Well-
this is 2020 pricing, so I
Yeah.
mean,
I think the other thing we have to double check on is I thought that we had to provide a certain amount of money in order for us to get the grant. So could we just double check to make sure what the stipulation is for that? I think the other piece is too, is maybe us re-examining what we were going to do versus what we could do with the monies that are available.
Right, try to keep it within that 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you have anything to add, please?
We did do the reserve for the 1.3 million for that project, but when Amy and I were working on that, we had to ask for the extension first, and then once the extension was granted, then we could change if we wanted the bathhouse to be a shelter or make any changes to it at that point, which you guys wanted to do with it first, but we had to have the extension done before we could do those things.
But is that a stipulation of the grant, is us putting in a certain amount of money in
Yes,
order to?
that was for all the cities, but some
Okay.
cities now have dropped out. Red Lake Falls is another one now that is not going to do their project anymore.
And is there any way to utilize some of those funds that weren't utilized by other cities then? Is there a
Yes,
pot of money that we
that's
can
what
use?
happened when we did the access last fall where we had to add all the extra concrete and crushed granite. We got those funds to help us
Provided.
with the other cities that didn't spend all theirs.
Okay. So it's still maybe a possibility of getting more funding then?
Yes.
Okay. I should look into that then. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Van Bratton.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.04 is a resolution to approve the dance permit for the Downtown Crookston Development Partnership event on June 28th, 2022, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Delane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Thank you. Discussion? Corky,
This is a matter for tomorrow, actually. The Downtown Partnership is continuing their long-established, in our history, event of having a group of people come and perform music. They are having, that they have indicated at least one food truck. The music may proceed to have dancing. They don't know if it will, but in order to make sure that they are completely within the regulations, they have applied for a dance permit. These events have typically been attended by, I'm gonna say 50 to 200 plus people. So they're one-night events, and that's a dance permit that they have asked for.
thank you. Further discussion? Anything to add, Shirley? Thank you.
I threw away the script you gave me, Shirley.
Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Van Bratton.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.05 is a resolution to approve dispensing of intoxicating liquor on premises at the Downtown Crookston Development Partnership Community Event, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you, Clayton. Second.
I'll second, Your
Thank
Honor.
you, Christie. Discussion?
Again, this is in association with the event tomorrow night. In the past, there has been dispensing of liquor. My understanding from their permit application is that they'll be using a local caterer. The area where it will be sold is designated, cordoned off, if you will, and they will be complying with our rules and regulations regarding that type of activity.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Kressel,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Van Bratton.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to reports. Corky, anything more to
We've
add?
had a couple of things. We have been working, as you might all well know, with the various food truck units, vendors who are coming to town. They are actually swarming to town. I believe sometime this week we'll have at least 5 vendors here all at once. They've been very active with Ashley, applying for permits. We're working with interpretation of our ordinance and getting their feedback as well. It's been very active. I mean, it's been really very active, might be more than we even anticipated. So we've been spending a lot of time on that. This may be a cheetah matter also, but we've had a number of interested parties now for our industrial park who are interested in potentially purchasing property in our industrial park area. They've contacted the city and come in and made presentations to us about their interest, and they're very interested. Each of the parties is very interested in that. We are constructing with Ashley and I a potential food truck ordinance for your consideration at the next meeting. We think that that's important to get that done now, and we've been consulting with other jurisdictions, other cities, about what they do and why they do, but we think we'll have a good one for your consideration next meeting on the 11th of July. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Corky. And I'll look around the poll tonight. Start with Greg, anything?
No report tonight, John.
Thank you. Ryan, anything tonight?
No report, Your Honor.
Okay. Chad, anything?
Must be important.
I wasn't ready to put my camera on me back there, so I just thought I'd come to the podium. Just a few quick things this evening, Your Honor. First, happy to report that the city now has a permanent URL or shortcut for our YouTube channel, and for everyone, that's www.youtube.com/c/City of Crookston channel. So that's your one link to find all of our posted material. We have a new website training for our website committee, and that begins July 7th. We're still looking at the 27th for the rollout of the new city website. And I'm happy to report that our ad is running for our new IT technician, and that'll run for a couple more weeks. And we already have had a number of interested candidates for the position.
Great.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, anything?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple real quick things here. Brandon, Dave Lassard, Shane Heldstab, and myself took a tour up and down the river the other day looking for damages on the wet side of the dike. And Brandon and I took a bunch of pictures. There is some damaged areas that we'll be looking at, maybe getting prices for to get fixed. And we're going to meet with Corky here and talk about maybe strategies for maybe resolving some of these areas. Some of them are quite intense, maybe along like the bridges and along South Ash there's some pretty heavily damaged areas that we need to take a look at. So more to come on that. Last week we had CERT training or ward captain training or whatever you want to call it with key people in our community that helped us out with the flood fight. Council was invited, mayor and council that attended. It was a very good meeting, very informative. We had a lot of good discussions, some good ideas coming up to work on for future events. Very interactive between everybody, and it was a very good meeting, so I really appreciate you that made it there. Got to say my condolences to the Melby family.
Thank you.
Known Carl for a long time, been on a lot of baseball trips with him, and a great guy, and just our condolences to you or your family there, Wayne. Got to say congratulations to Chad. He's a new married man, so good for him. We're pretty excited about that for him, and just want everybody to have a safe and happy 4th of July. So.
Thank you. Brandon.
Street crew started the sidewalk repairs downtown today on the Woodseth block, Kerouac's block, whatever you want to call it. We had to remove the trees there because they had pushed the supports around them up so high that they were a trip hazard. So they removed the trees this morning. They're going to remove the brick for half of it tomorrow and start that repair. It's been a lot of brush cleanup in the last week with all the heavy winds going through, so they've been working on that. With the brush cleanup, we're having issues with one of our garbage trucks, and then with staffing issues, it's easier just to use the newer truck to go get brush. So brush cleanup this week is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Regular garbage route was picked up today, and then Thursday, Friday will be picked up tomorrow. I've been getting a lot of questions about removing trees. Most of these trees are diseased right now, and you don't want to remove diseased trees during the summer when the insects are active because it transfers the disease to healthy trees. So I will be getting a good inventory of trees that need to either be trimmed or removed this summer, and we'll do it this fall once temperatures are lower and there's less insects to transfer the disease. We had to close gates with the river coming up again this weekend, so we closed 5 gates, and I think they reopened them today, so they're getting lots of use this year. The forced main leak, we have a forced main leak from our main lift station out to the ponds. Zarvels is supposed to be here Wednesday to fix that. And it's most likely just going to be a temporary fix for right now. We have to get parts this fall. Water department temporary, the water main replacement on Alexander. Late last week, they were sampling it today. The water main replacement on Alex. It's a short replacement, it's about 500 feet, but they're tentatively going to start that July 11th. Lyle's got most of the sandbags picked up now, so we're getting to the point of high water that you won't see a lot of the work that has to be done for it, but there's a lot of background work for it, so. Half the clay by the fire hall was removed. The county had some roads wash out and they needed clay, so I told them to take what they needed before we hauled ours out. So I think they need like another 100 yards, and then we'll haul the remaining back to the shop there. We're spraying for mosquitoes tonight, starting at 9. Be done at about midnight. And we'll be interviewing on Wednesday for the street position for a couple applicants, so hopefully we fill that position midweek, so that's all I got.
Thank you, Brandon.
Anything on the post office deal over there?
The post office deal, they have approved their contractor, and I believe Ian told me today that he's about 2 weeks out, so.
Okay, Darren, anything tonight?
Thank you. Patrol and investigations continue to be extremely busy. I responded to just over 300 calls for service in the last 2 weeks. We're having our first Night to Night planning meeting tomorrow. Night to Night, that's our largest community outreach program that we sponsor, that we host. Typically we have 2,000 to 2,500 people attend each year, so we're excited about that. That'll be at UMC again this year. We're partnering with them. Attended a regional chiefs meeting this week in Foston. Our regional chiefs meeting was called Region 1 and 2, so that's from East Grand Forks to Bemidji Park Rapids, Thief Falls in northwest corner of the state from Roseau War Road all the way out. We generally meet about every other month. The president of the Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association was there, and we discussed hiring again. Obviously, it's a state and national problem that we know. There is some proposed legislature right now that could possibly provide funding to it's kind of two-part, not sure how it's going to turn out, but to recruit or retain current officers. So again, it's in its early stages, but with any hope, maybe we could obtain some funding to kind of help with the recruitment, as we all know is always a struggle. They did mention at the meeting that statewide college enrollment has leveled off or possibly increased. That's kind of the first positive I've heard in a long time. It's always typically been the opposite. So that's encouraging for any possible future recruitment that we might have. We had a couple officers attend state mandated driving school or training last week. And currently our new squad car is being upfitted, where the equipment is being installed. We're hoping to have that later this week, early next week. When you see it on the street, you'll notice there's a few subtle decal changes. Still black and white, but on the cars, we typically would have our badge on the front quarter panel, and we changed it to our patch. Kind of looks a little more retro. I think it's a nice change. It's been probably, oh boy, well over 10 years since we've done any changes to our squad car. So very subtle, but you might see some unique changes there. So some just location of some lettering change and very subtle changes like that. Otherwise, everything else pretty status quo.
Thank you.
All right.
Jake, anything more to add? No report tonight, Your Honor. Thank you. All right, before I forget, I better start with Tom Vedbrotten. Anything to add?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Said nothing? Okay. Wayne, anything?
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Christie?
I attended the CERT training on, was that Wednesday? And it was really kind of nice to go over how everything had gone down with the several of the flood events and just ideas of how we could do things maybe a little bit differently. But I think overall, the team did a really good job, and I really appreciate everyone who was part of that piece. I did have one constituent call me in regards to the smell with Crystal recently, and wondering if there was anything that could be done, or if there was something that had significantly changed because of the smell. And so I've shared that information with Corky, and don't know what we could do with that at this point, but I do know there was a call into the Minnesota Pollution Control and just trying to find out if there was any concerns or anything. And I understand that Crystal Sugar is a really good partner for the city, but I think there's just been I think most recently, some pretty strong smells that have lingered for quite a few days that have some constituents a little concerned.
Is that it?
That's it.
I had a discussion. Brandon, you want to kind of tell Christie and council what I had a discussion regarding American Crystal, please? Thank you.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of information on it, but they contacted me this spring before the high water event. They wanted us to take about 100 million gallons of their pond water. We typically, if they have excessive wastewater, if we have room, we'll treat it for them, and obviously in exchange for a payment. But we were unable, we had to bypass our ponds during high water because we were getting more water than we had room for. So I contacted them about a month ago and said if we're able to take water, it's going to be the end of summer from them. So I will call, I have contacts for their pond operators. I'll see if there's something different going on, and I will send out an email to you guys to let you know.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Steve, anything?
Do we have any updates on finding a company for administrator, or?
Don't have any updates at this point. The person who I contacted leaving Minnesota City is on vacation. That's the one who can tell me, but I will be contacting her again this week, middle or late.
Stay on it, I guess. We only got 5 more months to get somebody in position. Unless you're gonna stay forever.
Well, I told you I'll stay till you get somebody you want, so.
No, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
That's forever.
Clayton, anything?
My condolences to the Melby family. I was privileged to be a classmate of Carl's, so he will deeply be missed. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Clayton. Don?
I don't know where to start, but I'll tell you a few things that would happen to me this last 3 days when I was in Duluth, and I attended the League of Minnesota Cities annual convention, annual conference, and they had a lot of sessions and a lot of good learning material for everyone. On Wednesday, we really had some good information given to us. They have a new organization called the Braver Angels, and I went to all of their sessions, and it doesn't cost anything. They'll come and train the council and so forth, and all of these different kinds of sessions and so forth. And I just want to read the Braver Politics fosters opportunities for elected officials, their staff, and constituents at a national, state, and county and community levels to develop skills and commitments to work together in goodwill across political differences. Our vision for Braver Politics. And there was really some good sessions that they gave at the workshop. It's hard to imagine all of the information that this little brain has to hold, to give you, and it was really, really fun. And actually, there's red and blue workshops for elected officials, handling difficult phone calls for staff, red and blue workers for staff of elected officials, constituent conversations, a workshop with elected officials, and Braver Politics for town halls. And we should maybe look into that sometime, how to communicate, how to get along better, and how to do things as a team. Not that we're not a team, we have a good team right now, but I think we could all use some training in that area. The second skill building workshop was getting grants for your community and for cities, and that was about 3 hours long. And I got, if anybody wants to look at how to write a grant, I do have this information that we went through, and it's got some good ideas about how to bring money to our community. So this is the third time I've gone to the training for this kind of activity, and I'll tell you, it's really improved a lot. The Thursday was loaded with information about different kinds of activities, and the final day, we listened to Amy Klobuchar talk a little bit about Minnesota and what's happening in Minnesota. Gave an excellent presentation, and Tim Walls talked about money for cities and how he wants to spread it out and give it back to the cities. So, but anyway, I had a great time, met a lot of good people. I talked to a lot of people from Thief River Falls and Holman, Bemidji, and talked about different kinds of things that were happening in those cities. It was really a learning experience, and I would suggest if anybody gets a chance to go to any one of our members and gets a chance to attend that next year, to attend that, because it's really a powerful learning experience. So, and the chamber office tomorrow, the 28th, is they're having their in Fargo tomorrow. They're having an agricultural meeting, and their second one of the year, and starts in the morning and goes till about 3 o'clock. And it'll be online too. So if anybody's interested, I got a printout here you can take and look at. So anyway, that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Don.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity for sending me to that conference. It was a great conference.
Thank you. Joe, anything tonight?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Delane?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Just a couple things. I also attended the CERT training update on flood, kind of post-flood fight last week, and I just want to give a thanks for the fire department for putting that on again. It's always kind of refresher and information. I see we have Jeremy Olson here. You must be soon leaving. One more meeting. Okay, well, thank you for serving our community, you've attended a lot of our council meetings. I appreciate that, and I wish the best of luck to you. Also, condolences to the Melby family. I know it's been said around the table, and it's never a good thing, but I mean, Carl is, his humor and his laugh is gonna be missed. I can hear him laughing right now probably at us, but once again, thoughts and prayers are with the Melby family. Nothing else come before council. We, by the way, we do have a Ways and Means meeting starting shortly. Gonna go kind of preliminary through the park board budget for next year, so nothing else before council. We are adjourned. Thank you. We have one item tonight, and it's kind of a park and recreation budget. It's preliminary, right? Just
Yes, these are the preliminary numbers. Jake has spent quite a bit of time working with his staff, going through, looking at these. Kind of visited with different department heads, you know, that this year with the rising costs and stuff, we really want to look at the expenses that you're putting down, really think about what you truly absolutely need to run your departments and stuff. So what you see in front of you, you're gonna have the very first sheet, which is the revenues. Then your second grouping is all the expenditures. And with that, you'll see you have 2020 and 2021, and then the current is the 2022, and then you'll have a column year-to-date, what we have spent as of this date, and then the proposed is for 23. Then, for some of the changes that you see on here, Jake has added notes for you to kind of look at. With his budget, we did look at his CIP also, and you've got a new copy of the one for 2023. And he went from 161,000, and he trimmed that down to 91,000. So he did quite a bit of savings just looking at his CIPs now for this year and how he could save money there. Keep in mind too, you know, last year with what we had done, the Park and Rec program took 61% of our levy dollars. And we won't know what those numbers are yet until we get a chance to go through all the budgets and see where these numbers actually fall into. So Jake, I'll let you kind of talk about your program and the revenues that you have that first section. Okay.
Starting off with recreation fees. I sat down with Andrea, she's here with me tonight, and Scott on our very first meeting. And we kind of discussed that our recreational fees, I don't think they've been changed in a while. So we came up with the solution to add $25 to some recreational fees, hockey, baseball, fast pitch, all the activities that we offer. We want to add $25 to that starting this fall, September 1st. We kind of went through the numbers and thought with our recreational fees that we could bring in a proposed budget of $40,000.
The budget in 2022 is $35,000. By increasing it $25, you're just going to increase it $5,000.
That's what we, yep. And we went off the influx of participants too. So this year, for instance, in our baseball program, we have an influx of a lot of kids that came out and played ball. Or last year, there wasn't so many, but there was more in softball, where this year in softball, we don't have as many as we did last year. So the influx of kids throughout the year just goes up and down.
Have you ever compared our rates compared to cities close by? Are they comparable? Are they the low
Wow,
end?
I know, yeah, we're
We're lower than other cities.
Well, one of the things that I know you got a lot more presentation to give, but I just want to make sure that maybe everything is going up this day and age. I mean, so we have to figure out a way to maybe look at some of our fees that we're charging and maybe consider moving them up even possibly more. Because we all know that once the levy comes, the revenue part of our side, we really need to take a look at that, I feel, to try to hopefully lessen what we're gonna need to ask for on the levy when that time comes. I mean, I know it's, this process being in the city government is a little backwards for me. It's always like, okay, let's spend and then figure out how much money we're gonna need with our expenses. So I wanna, with all departments, if there's any revenue chance, I think we should look at that and definitely get them up with the times and without curbing, we don't wanna not have participation in our, does that make sense?
Yep. Oh, totally. Thank you.
And Jake is also done different things, and he's looking at trying to utilize the facilities that we have more, the arena, bring in more tournaments and stuff like that too, that he's reflected in some of this as he continues.
Okay.
We're just going through each.
Yeah, just talk about your club kid, how you have your notes here.
Oh, okay. You just want me to talk about the clubs or on the notes?
Okay, sir.
Let's see. We looked at some numbers from last year. Our club kid numbers are up, I think about 9 or 10 kids this year. We kind of figured with the decrease that we have with childcare that our club kid numbers have gone up. You know, we offer our program on Monday through Friday, 1 to 5, Monday through Thursday, 8 to noon. So these kids get to go to different parts around the community. The pool, they go to the splash pad, they go to the rink sometimes. So our numbers are at 60, I got them right here actually. 60, as of today, we have 62 kids in our club kid. And last year, do you have those numbers at all?
We have, I think, around 57,
Yeah.
56.
So we're up a few kids, and we sat down and discussed, and like I said, I think it's a lot has to do with, you know, with the decrease in daycare that we don't have. So we kind of projected that program to be a big program in the future, especially if we can come up with ideas to offer just offer things for kids that want to do. You know, there's many things you could do, Nerf gun wars or have tournaments for dodgeball or something like that. You know, just offer things to bring kids to that program. So the blue line, the concessions arena. So in the agreement that Corky and I came up with this winter, they're gonna go. They'll be rent free. They're gonna be paying for all our hockey tournaments this season and for the next. I think it's a 3-year lease contract. Let me look here quick. So with that, I gave them the option if they wanted to go rent free in the concession stand, because in the long run, when you have tournaments that you go to, they're not cheap. So
how many, what's the cost of the tournaments that they're gonna,
roughly $200 to $300 a tournament, if not more.
So what's the total? It looks like we're foregoing the $8,000 rent, right? And then they're gonna pay for the tournaments. The question is, how many dollars worth of tournaments are they gonna put in? Is it gonna be more than $8,000, do you feel, or is it gonna be less than $8,000?
I think it'll be more, I feel. I'd have to look.
Yeah, Councilman, we did take a look at that, and we tried to estimate the number of tournaments per youth level, and it appeared that expenditure that we would have had would have been more than the $8,000 that we're foregoing. Can't give you a precise number, but we thought it was advantageous to the city to do that. Plus, it eliminated a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the oversight that we would have had with the Blue Line Club in terms of calculating their revenues. We think the city came out well over the $8,000 that we were projecting or receiving in income.
Skating fees. Let's see, we projected $40,000. We projected in a proposed budget for our revenue this year. We are going to raise the fee, like we said, $25 as of now. I will look into what other communities pay for. And then there's some cost there that has not been in the prior years. Typically what happens is as the Blue Line Club covers the little mini-mite hockey fees. And to my knowledge, we have not received them the last couple of years. I did have a meeting with them last week, and that will be foregoing. They want to pay for those participants. and I just have to come up with a fee for that, for them, to let them know. So,
What are the fees now? You got, the recreation fee, you're looking,
For mini mics, they don't.
I'm just looking at, you got, I'm going back a little bit, recreation fees increase, raising our activity fee to $25, so what are they now? And then with the, skating fee, raising our hockey fees $25 and adding fees to the hockey program, what is,
so our 8U hockey girls, they pay $215. Our Mite 3s pay $215. Our squirts pay $265. Our 12U girls pay $355. Our peewees pay $355. And our bantams pay $375.
so is there a rate if families got more than one?
No.
So is that gonna, I guess, I hear where you're coming from, but is that gonna squeeze families from not participating?
I hardly doubt it. Not hockey.
Yeah, Your Honor, we did talk about that, both Ryan
Yeah,
and
and the
Jake.
cost that he checked with other towns, our hockey program is very cheap for parents here in Crookston.
And we did make that consideration. We don't think it's gonna forestall anyone participating.
And Jake has experience from East Grand Forks and what they were charging.
Yeah, I believe there's, top of my head, I believe it was 475.
I mean, and again, we're come on levy time and budgeting for that. I have a feeling that it's gonna be a lot more than what the city is used to doing that. So I have to say, if there's a little pain that has to go with some people participating in these fees, I feel that's a way to offset maybe some of the levy that we have to.
I hear ya. Yep, I
The
get it.
concern there is that we are a low-income community too, and we can't, we're not gonna get kids to play either if we get too crazy.
Granted, but, I mean, if we're a low-income community, we still have to pay taxes,
Right.
levy. So I mean, some people could make the argument, say, well, none of my kids participate in any of these meetings, so I'm, through my taxes that I have to pay, I have to pay theirs, to offset that.
That's the problem, we're double-edged sword with the older people, the older community. And
I get it, but like I said, there's gonna be some pain everywhere.
So one of the things you're asking Jake and Ryan and myself to consider is a more of a balancing approach.
Yes.
As opposed to the general levy, see if it's possible to raise participation fees among the park and rec to offset that against a potential increase in the levy. Is that fair?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think
Thank you.
any revenue source we can find, if we can find anything that's gonna help, because the bottom line is, I think in every department this year, we're gonna have a nasty levy period, and it's one of those things, not that we haven't done our due diligence, but everything's more expensive. There's nothing you can do, it's not a 3% increase, buying equipment anymore, it's a 18-20% increase, that's the problem. If we're gonna give these kids, equipment and stuff to play with and safe equipment, it's gonna cost a lot of money, whether, we raise fees, but we can't raise the fees to catch up with the cost of living and the cost of the equipment itself, going up 30-40%.
I also think too, just because I have so many kids, that if you raise it too high, you're gonna stop from having them in multiple things. Several of my kids are in multiple things, and I know for a fact, visiting with parents and stuff, if it goes up too high for each one, you may only get them in one, so that's gonna take your revenue from here. So you're gonna have to be careful with that, because, a lot of people wanna support the park and recreation as best they can and have them as many things they can. They may go down to just one instead of two or three, so that may offset that also.
And I agree, so what I challenge to my city council, people here is, this is the time, it seemed like last year, we sat back and we listened to all the different budgets coming through, and they said, okay, yep, that sounds good, and then when it comes to levy time, we started at a certain amount, and then, some of us said, well, that's too high. We gotta cut it. Well, this is the time where we cut it, not at levy time. So,
Well, not only cut,
Yeah, but-
Councilman, but talk
Increase.
about raising revenue.
right,
This is the time to do it. These are preliminary figures. All of us have worked to give you an initial idea. Certainly your feedback.
yep.
I mean, we're not hearing, don't think about raising revenues. We're hearing, look at it, balance it. Yes?
Yes.
And that's why I think we're starting this now and giving you more information to see, let's talk about it now. And I do know that Jake has spent a lot of time checking with other communities on what their fee structures were, also what some of their expenditures were as far as their programs. And I know that it was something that we all talked about in our department head meetings about, you know, well, I know last year you guys talked about this 8% just as a 1-year correction. And it's gonna be really hard this year with the rising cost of inflation and that to really come down to a lower number this year.
We still have the scholarship program.
Yeah.
Now, I think that should be more publicized. I think there's people that, like myself, that our kids have gone through the program, and I remember ours was $50 to have a kid in there, you know, compared to the $250. And maybe if a guy knew or was refreshed about that, he'd say, hey, I'll throw a couple $100 in the kid each year, just to try to keep the expenses down. And you know, something that's a donation, I believe it would be a tax write-off.
I believe it would be.
You know, and I mean, and it could help the programs a lot, if you got folks that can afford to throw it in. I don't have 3-4 kids into the programs, you know, and it's not saying that someone can't afford it, but it would just help to offset it.
Right.
And keep them reasonable, because remember, that product that you put out there, that's what brings people to town on the Saturdays and Sundays in the wintertime. That keeps this, you know, keep our businesses going, and with the hotels and the tournaments and stuff. I mean, without them, you wouldn't see that much activity in this town, so we gotta remember to keep that too, because it's a big part of our economic development. I mean, is there such a thing as, like, I'll just take one thing for example, like, adult recreation fees, is there a way to figure out what the total expense is of that? You know, an ideal situation would be a net zero, I guess, for, you know, have the fees cover all the expenses for each segment per se, I guess, if that makes sense, so.
I get what you're saying. I think that's a tough thing to do in a park and rec program, because typically cities that have park and rec programs, you don't see them making a break-even line. It's where the city is contributing money to keep them funded and running.
Right.
But with the expense side of that, we can definitely, you know, break that down and see what all went into that general ledger number at the end here.
I mean, like, for example, maybe by doing that or something, there's one that's like, holy, we're really going in the hole on this particular program. I mean, maybe this is the time that we look at some of those programs and maybe say, well, you know what, it's just not feasible right now with our current budget year. Maybe we can look at it in the future, but right now, maybe it doesn't look good on paper too, you know. But maybe there's other ones that.
I just think that, you know, you're saying, you know, possibly if it doesn't fit or whatever, but we never want to drop programs. Like Wayne said, that's what brings people to our community. We've had several people speak in here throughout the years about, you know, what's going on in Crookston. We had a couple gals come up and talk about it. The more we can bring to Crookston and people moving here, that brings tax base, as everybody knows. It's all little things that add to it. I hear what you're saying 100%. But as long as we can get as many programs as we have that'll draw people and draw kids and draw families, that overall is gonna, in the tournaments, in all different things, and it makes our community look better. That's my.
And I get it. Just when it comes time to, and keep in mind, just when it comes levy time, That's when the rubber hits the road.
But here, I mean, for my thing with this, I mean, just looking at this in 5 minutes, recreation equipment in 2020 was 6,000, in 2021, 8,000, projected 20,000. I don't care how much you raise the rates, you're not gonna pay that loss of revenue there.
Right.
And it's one of those things that if you're gonna have sports, you gotta have equipment, you gotta have.
Don't get me wrong, I am
That's what
pro
I'm just saying
sports
is-
and pro.
We need to look at the expense side too. I mean, the
Yeah.
revenue, get as much as we can, but the expense side, we don't wanna have our kids out there without the best equipment. The bottom line is, there's gonna be a big levy, not just for Park and Rec, but all the way across this field from, everything, tools and everything the city had. I think we're gonna be sticker shock, when it comes to that point. in time.
That's what I think too. I agree. So that's why I think we need to do everything we can. I mean, every time we have it, not just you, Jake, everybody that comes forward, we're gonna have to look and not just the expense side but see what we can do on the revenue side to offset some of them expenses, so.
I just wanna say thank you for this, getting it this early though. We've never seen, in 8 years I've been on this, I've never seen anything till October. So I mean, I just look at it, if we can start this now, from the PD, the fire department, and all these departments to get this rolling, that does give us some time to, walk through this and digest it and.
Well, that was the intent, and all of the department heads have been very cooperative. They're probably tired of me saying, we gotta get on this. They're probably tired of Ryan saying, we gotta get on this. But we do want you to see it, and from what I've heard, I'm thankful that you understand that this year is gonna be unique. This year is gonna be one where the department heads are not afraid to come here and say, we need to increase revenues. Now, we're not saying by 50%, but at least we can say we are considering increases. Then it'll be up to you all to decide, is that too much? Is that too little? But we're doing it as early as we can, and any feedback, welcomed.
My only thing is, and I know, Jake, with the new system that you guys have, you're able to track a lot of this stuff. And so I just want to also make sure that we're utilizing our resources in the most appropriate ways, that like, if you have a real interest in one thing, that it makes sense to put the money towards it. But if we're seeing something that has either a decline in usage or just isn't something that people are utilizing, that we're also reconsidering, is that a program we want to still offer? Is there other opportunities for new programs to present in its place? And I think that's also just as equally as important to consider as we go forward. Because if we keep throwing money at something that like 2 people participate in, that's a lot of money to be utilizing at the end of the day, right? And so it would be really interesting kind of going forward, looking at the historical data, now that you're able to get that and collect that with the new system, to know that like these are things that are worth the time and money, and maybe these are things that we need to reassess and maybe present a different type of programming going forward. So, yeah, similar to what Delane was saying in that.
Yeah, I mean, utilities, 40%, I mean, that's realistic too, and it's just scary, I mean, like I said.
And that was by the cost price index that we did those.
We sat down as a department head and we kind of wanted to kind of be on the same map with utilities, certain things in our budget. And we came up with 40% for gas and oil and 40% for utilities.
And you're not far off. That's a scary part.
And just so you understand, Councilman, you will be seeing that throughout all departments. Ryan did a wonderful job in reviewing consumer price indexes. He and I met. We talked about it at some length, what would be appropriate. We both kind of did a double take when we looked at 40%, but we felt it was realistic, and we felt that it was important that you all know all of the departments will be using, for certain items, the same numbers.
On the utility side of things, is there any stuff that you've looked at for like retrofits of lighting within facilities, kickbacks from like Ottail, that kind of stuff that would maybe help costs, or if somebody isn't in a room, a light shut off? I know we're doing a lot of that at the college, and it's a money savings. They're not just on, there's no movement, they go off. It's saving money that way. I mean, you can look at, and that's maybe smaller things, but it could add up. you know.
And that is something that Jake has done at the arena. I know that he had some equipment that it had to operate at 100% capacity, which draws a lot more electricity, so that caused the rates to go quite higher, and he's working at now trying to get that rectified. So that would be savings, huge.
Yeah, I mean, all them little things all add up in the end, and maybe that keeps a program, or, you know what I mean? So all the little things and the way things are going up, we really have to look into some of them smaller things to add up.
Yep. Do any other council people have any other questions as in regards to just the revenues?
Well, I agree that park rentals are too cheap.
You wanted to give me $100.
And she told me the price to rent, space at the park, I couldn't believe how cheap it was. What do we charge now for the open swim fee?
$5 starting June 1st.
What was it before?
$2. $2.
And it immediately increased, it's been that 2 for many years. We never did. We just went up to first.
Would it be a ton of work to get like the pool itself, you know? I know we'll get that eventually, but, and now when we're looking at this, to get the pool revenue, the pool expenditure, the CSC expenditure and revenue, and have that piece by piece, because I think we can digest it more instead of get it all at once like this or whatever, but
Well,
when you look at your revenue side, you know, that pool is supposed to quote unquote,
Pay for itself.
break even. and
That's
it's
what we've heard.
not even there.
But actually, Councilman, if you would look at page 4 on your revenues section, that is the pool's revenues are right there. And then your expenditures, you're going to have a sheet that is for the pools, starting on page 4 also of the expenditures. Is that kind of what you were looking to see?
Yeah, like I said, it's just, like I said, so we know what the fees are, what we're making out
Yep.
of them like that. So, okay, I didn't see that on both of them there, okay, perfect.
That's just kind of how I wanted to do it this year, that you guys have more to see. There's lots of notes here that we put in when we do make a change to it. If we increase something or we decrease something, we want to add a note in there explaining why. Some of the math computations on how we came up with that number.
So, I'm sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
So the only other thing I wanted to add on the revenue side is, are we doing anything with the CVC to generate more community involvement there? I mean, it was billed as a Crookston Community Center. Now, are we doing anything to like have summer activities in there so it creates people to come in and generate revenue that way? More so than what we've done in the past. You know, like, so, I guess in the grand scheme of things, I look at like, you know, just follow my path of thought here. I look at the Fargo Dome and I look at the Alara Center, and you know, every year they try to get to like somewhere in the black if they can. Now, granted, the CVC is a much smaller venue, but is that a possibility to have some more events in there to try to you know, offset some
offset revenue.
Yeah,
or
so I
some
mean,
other
can we
revenue.
do some concerts, some more craft shows, some other shows, but it's, I mean, ultimately, and it's a big job, ultimately, every weekend that thing's sitting empty is costing money. So if we can do something to, whatever we can, I mean, we talk about having like, and I don't even know if it's a thing anymore, if kids would even do that, but back when we were all kids, we had like a roller skating place to go and, you know, do that type of stuff, and that could be something that could be done like on a Thursday or something like that, open it up, have concessions. It's just thinking outside the box to get some activity out there to, and you have some marketing background, correct?
Well, I have a lot of recreation background,
Yeah.
so yeah, in a sense.
So I
yeah.
mean,
You know, Delane, it's kind of a, like you talk about your double-edged sword. You try to bring something like that in, and with the contract we've got with the Blue Line, who makes the money off the program? You know, you can throw a concert and Blue Line Club makes the money because they're running the concessions. So that's kind of one of those things that if we could incorporate, because if you're gonna have your skaters there and you're gonna, you know, who's gonna make the money on the soda and whatnot upstairs, you know what I mean?
Well,
So it
then if
makes
they're
it kind of
making-
tough to
so then-
realize expenses, you know, when you're not making.
So then I hear you, then maybe we need to do something with that, with that agreement. I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, if we're taking the big hit as taxpayer base on that CVC, we need to have a way to make some income on that. And we can't be sitting here with our hands tied and holding an event and not making any money on the concessions, because that's where the big.
Under the new agreement that we have with the Blue Line Club, there is possibilities that the Blue Line Club can, one, forego even being open, or two, they can allow different vendors, kiosks, cart type things. There is some flexibility in the new agreement that was not there in the previous agreement for individual events to be held.
So the months June to August, in our contract states, in the months of June through August, the city may authorize sponsors of events held in the CSC to sell concessions during such events. The Blue Line Club's concession area shall not be used for such event without a prior agreement with the Blue Line Club for such use or for provision of concessions by the Blue Line Club during the event.
That was a
So-
specifically negotiated
Yes.
term this year by your city's negotiating team to allow the very thing you're talking about. So there is some flexibility at this point.
No,
We
we're,
have had music concerts for past practices.
Right.
And I don't believe we made any, I don't know how that works, because I was here, but I know there was an issue with.
Yeah, we don't want to have stuff that makes us go backwards, I mean, but.
when Shannon put on that concert, I mean, it was a full house, and it still didn't make very good money. I mean, it was one of those things, and if it would have been a bad day, we would have lost thousands and thousands.
So the alternative is then, you know, so back, I remember, because I donated money to the CVC, and the big thing was it's gonna be a big thing for the community, not just a hockey place. And people still talk to me nowadays, they say, well, city's stuck in a bunch of money for a bunch of kids that play hockey.
Yeah.
So what, the only thing I'm trying to get at is we got this big, nice building out there. There's ways we can utilize it to somehow, in each event, get into the black. However much that is, and I think we should consider it, you know.
And honestly, Dick, I think, you know, I've seen a lot of other cities do things like during the winter months, that are like one Wednesday a month or one Saturday a month where they have an indoor event for kids to run around and do something. So maybe it's like a dodgeball thing, or maybe it's, you know, something. And honestly, as a mom, I'd pay $5. I'd pay $10 to take my kids to go do something for that weekend that's indoors, that they can like get all their energy out, especially with all the snow and everything that's going on. So I think there's some real opportunities that it doesn't need to be necessarily a big, you know, revenue generator, but it's providing opportunity for kids to get out there, to utilize that space outside of hockey, but then also pay to make sure that the event is, you know, at least like pricey, if nothing else. And I don't think that everything we do has to generate revenue, because a lot of the things we do as a city should be city services. But at the same time, the reality is that we need to at least pay for those things, right? And if you had like a series of like things for kids to do to get out of the house, so they're not stir crazy in the house all winter, you know, maybe it's like events that you plan from, you know, January to March or something, you know, provide that and advertise it and, you know, allow us to utilize that in a different way, you know?
Yep.
But I would tell you there is definitely a need for that. I think that there's been a lot of parents who said, what about like an indoor playground or something? And I do know that we have that very small corner playground, but the reality is that it's very small. It's really for smaller children. I just wonder if there's other opportunities within the CSC that we could do something like that sort of.
Well, we do have the turf open, you know, till roughly Thanksgiving, before we take it out, so.
Is there a possibility, is it even feasible to run our hockey and figure skating program on 2 rinks? and leave turf in the goal.
Don't even turn back that way.
So Jake, I think you guys are on the right track there when you reorganize your ordinance with the Blue Line Club, because the Blue Line Club really had some power, like Mr. Melby said, you know, we need to look at that very seriously, and that's a good start, I think.
Have you guys ever had any talk about, like, and I don't know, it's probably gonna be best midwinter, but like a rodeo? I've had a lot of people talk about a rodeo and different stuff since winter shows had went down. I mean, that was a huge draw to this town for 3 days. That brought in a lot of money.
I haven't had a talk. I mean, I've mentioned it to, you know, things like that, Delane, where my ideas of, you know, rodeos. When I was a rec supervisor out in Williston, North Dakota, we had our own rec center with a rink that we, you know, and we had rodeos, we had concerts, we had those types of things for the community. So those are good ideas.
So how did they pan out when you did those out in Williston? Were they a net gain at the end of the day?
I never saw the numbers, but I know, I mean, when you got 2,000, 3,000 people in a facility and you're selling alcohol and you're selling food and stuff like that, you know, it can be a moneymaker. It just depends on, I have a friend of mine, his name's Mike Amundsen. He's now he works in Fargo. He's, I think, their event director. I'll make a phone call to him and see how he plays out what he does with a budget that he has to work with too, you know, so I'll make a phone call.
I know it's a lot, I mean, something like that's a lot of work. I mean, bringing in the dirt and the different stuff like that, but I think revenue wise, you know, if the gate goes to the city on that aspect, just looking at what it used to be in a smaller area like the winter shows and what that brought in over a 3-day event, and the hotels and the restaurants, and you know, it was crazy. This town was like double in size, you know. It's
I do know you are limited to things though because of the entrance to, you know, if you're gonna hold a rodeo, you're gonna want to host it on the main event. Rink, right, with seating.
So there'd be some work outside there of how to get them in and out, and you know, and stuff like that. And I think we could do it with some of the overhead doors in between and different stuff. I mean, but there'd be some planning. And it would not be easy. That's the thing. But I really think if it was well advertised, something like that would really go over big. But that's my opinion. I mean, I've had many people over the years ask me about that, and so that might be something to look into. Bringing something like that, it's just a huge revenue draw for the city in general. I mean, right now with COVID being around and how businesses were hurt, anything we can bring here to help keep businesses like that, and you know, we don't ever want to see somebody break even, but even if it's break even and it brought thousands and thousands of dollars to the city to help out businesses in town, I think it's a great thing. But
Jake, as far as I know the Blue Line, we've done a 3-year contract pretty recently, but on their ice rental and that stuff, are they gonna keep up what they used to do, or are they dropping a little bit? I know they were talking about maybe not as much ice time in the off seasons. Is that gonna dwindle down, which help us with the power and?
So with their new agreement, I gotta find it here.
You gotta remember, when you guys, if we're gonna start doing things like that, it takes money to make money. And if you have one of those and it dumps on you, there's significant loss, and, you know, advertising, expenses and fees that you got. I mean, it's nothing I don't think that we can settle on right now tonight. I think we give him the idea, and if he can find some, I mean, like Scott found that, the big thing or whatever it was, that swap meet or craft show. You know, some of those where it's not too much investment, but I mean, giving them the green light on some of these things is great. I mean, you know, to say, hey, go out there and check it out. See if you could have Friday night dances. I mean, you know, that used to be a big thing in the town too. I mean, but roller skating, all these different things. But it, you know, it's coordination around your hockey, and because that's mainly what we got that outfit for. But
and the sad thing is, you know, like you're saying, Wiener, a lot of the things that we need are around that hockey time. I mean, it's winter, there's not much to do, the people are looking for stuff to do. If you're gonna have events, probably gonna be your best time, because you have per se a rodeo in the summer, or even in the fall. People are busy doing other things, and fall sports, I mean, they're outside, they know what's coming.
You
So
know
to
what the
speak,
lake,
so-
you know what the lake does to this city already,
Oh, yeah.
you know, in the
And
summertime.
I think instead of doing a bunch, maybe we should try one thing and just see how it pans out. You
I'm
know?
just saying he should just be open to any kind of, you know, ask people for, you know, what kind of event have you seen from out in Montana or wherever you've been? What kind of events work, and bring it back and talk to Jake, and then see if we can't go through some preliminaries and see if we're on board to try it.
I wasn't on the council then, but when we ran a couple of those concerts out in the, I mean, Steve, you were saying it didn't pan out as,
Well, they didn't, they had potential to lose $18,000 5 days before the concert, because people don't buy them in advance, so you don't know, so they're freaking out. City's freaking out, the chamber's freaking out, we're like, we're gonna lose $40,000 here between both entities, and, you know, and then the last 3 days, they sold thousands of tickets, and.
so then maybe at first we plan it around when we know there's gonna be a bunch of people in town.
The deal is though, is when we had Hairball here, you know, there was a good turnout. The second one, I'm not sure, I can't remember the band. It
But
did.
Airball was the same way, they had
But-
potential to lose a ton of money, but
but
they
the-
ended up making money, but.
But the deal is though, at that time with Shannon, our city administrator, he was running around all these communities, hanging posters and all that. That's not his job. There was a lot of,
He made that work, basically.
he did, and there was a lot of public works help too involved for that long weekend. I think they built the stages.
No, they got a lot from UMC,
And-
they borrowed some from.
Well, here's the
over.
thing I think you're saying is, be open to events, and you understand.
It's a risk.
There's the risk benefit, but more importantly, Park and Recs Department is gonna have you all aware of what they're thinking.
Yeah.
If there's an event, and it will be on you all to
Right.
say, that's a risk we're willing to take. We can give you projections, we can give you numbers, but the fact is, you'll all be made aware, and that
You know,
you're
there's-
open to the suggestions.
There's things in our community that we know that there's gonna be a large number of people in town for that we could capitalize on. You know, Oxnard Days is one of them, you know, we know there's gonna be a bunch of people in town that time, so maybe that would be a time to hold one of these events, you know, and then stuff like that. Wayne, you're shaking your head.
You hate to jump aboard somebody else's ship, because they're going to be ticked off if
and
they
that's
brought
not-
they brought the crowd.
Yeah, so we have this much to.
Yeah, and that's not really this discussion
Right.
tonight.
Right.
The discussion tonight is, here's the preliminary budget, how do we get there? But I believe I understand, and I believe these three understand, we're open to suggestions.
Okay.
Can I just make one other suggestion? I always have like things that are available through, in Fargo. And I think a lot of the really cool events that I've seen recently have all been privatized. And so I do wonder if it's some things that we reach out to those individuals who are already putting on things like the Night Bazaar and the Christmas Market, or Unglued's Craft Fest. Like, they have some pretty cool things that bring fairly significant draws from 75 to 100 miles away to that area. And I wonder if, instead of us taking on the risk and the cost, is that we actually are starting to talk to people who are privatizing these events, so maybe they make a majority of the money, but what we're getting out of it is people are coming and staying overnight, they're eating at our restaurants, you know, they're paying for things in other ways, but we're bringing that draw to our city.
But just remember, that doesn't have Jake's budget.
No, it does, though.
that's
I think when you
kind
when
of
you
the
talk
thing.
about providing opportunity, it doesn't necessarily need to be a risk or a cost to the park and rec's budget. It could be something that we're asking people to come in and it's privatized. They're providing the event and what have you, and maybe we get some like cut of that service, but it's not something that we're taking on the risk of inviting a band or something like that. So just something to think about as you're kind of going along. and addressing that is like looking for those people who are already putting on those events, who already know how to do those things, who are doing great in their social media, doing great in their draws and crowds that are like known names that provide us these really great things, again, providing those services, but us not having necessarily to take the risk, right? So just something to think about.
Yeah, I think, tonight getting these ideas is great for Jake, and I think, that it'll give him some time, since these are just preliminary numbers, to kind of look and see, can he add some more into his revenues and maybe look at some other opportunities of which we spoke about tonight. But if anybody else has anything else with the revenues, please let Corky know so that when he has a meeting with Jake that we can get that addressed. But I'd like to move on to the expenditures now so that we can go through that, because there's quite a few more sheets of that.
One quick question, is curling a thing, or is that done? We don't.
We haven't had it the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, so you just basically not putting down anymore in the ice or nothing?
No, I mean, we have everything there still. It's just, there wasn't an interest as of,
Crazy.
right.
That was the biggest thing, we gotta have curling, it was gonna draw hundreds of people in Crookston. We put all that money, we built all this stuff, we bought everything, and then 2 years later, we can't even get 2 teams. I mean, that's another, just a waste of money in that stuff, I tell you.
Isn't that partly because of the big curling structure that was built in Grand Forks? Because I know that there was a lot of teams that were from Crookston that utilized that space, and like they had a whole redo of that, so I do wonder if
I think
that was
the first few years it was pretty big, but.
Yeah.
Dropped off.
the redo of that building.
It's hard to, I mean, it's doable, but it's hard to put a curling rink on a hockey rink or a figure skating rink, because it takes.
You gotta pebbleize it.
Pebbleize it, and you gotta turn your ice, I mean, the ice is a lot warmer than normal figure skating or hockey temperature for ice, so.
What about these expenditures, Jake?
Where do we start? So at the top of the list from 45100-011 all the way down to our 45100-0134, or I'm sorry, 0142. We had a meeting about where we're gonna be at with a percentage of raises for the union. So we came up with a 3.5 to start off. Not sure if that's gonna happen or not yet, but, so I based off everything from those numbers on down at a 3.5% increase.
And that 3.5 is something that Corky and I had discussed and talked about, because there will be negotiations with all three unions this summer and stuff that will be scheduled with Corky. So, and this is just kind of what we preliminary thought were best to put it in at the 3.5.
Okay. Recreation equipment. I went through numbers today. I added up all the programs that we offer in our community through Park and Rec. We offer, and Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we offer 31 programs for our spring and summer season. We offer 33 for our fall and winter, with a total of 64 different programs through our, like I said, our Park and Rec. With that, I'd like to have some money to purchase up-to-date equipment, uniforms for kids and players, for the programs that we're offering. I know we could use some new helmets for our youth baseball and softball. Out there, catcher's gear. It's nice to get every other year, so you could just do it on every, 10U one year, 12U one year, and then you could go and offset with Babe Ruth or whoever the next year. Bats are the same way. We have a lot of our hockey program is our biggest program. So new cones, we got to purchase pucks, nets. They're not, they're all kind of high price items. So I'm just basing off of what we have to offer the community and what I would like to try to get for equipment.
Now, is that 0242 on page 1? If you go across, it's been 7,500 currently.
Yep.
Jake is projecting or proposing 20,000, just so we can all follow across what you're talking. Is that what you're talking about, Jake?
Yep, that's
Okay,
on,
thank you.
yep, I'm just going off of the notes, the
Sure.
changes that I made, so.
And like Steve said, I don't think he's gonna be too far off with the price of everything that's going up, and you do a great job. Like I said, I have kids in and stuff. I mean, my boy was left-handed catcher, got him a catcher glove to try, and stuff, and he's 10U. And so I think it's a good thing, you know, getting kids out there, but it's all in a cost.
You know, and every, like I was telling you, Delane, you know, there's always an influx every year of kids, so, you know, next year in the 10U, like, we have 29 kids right now. Last year, I believe we had 18. There was a one team, you know, so it's hard to tell you what I'm gonna have next year for kids, I can guess, but, you know, I think it's great. So with that kids and that influx, we need, you know, just kinda need to.
I think
balance it
a
out.
big draw that started maybe even before you, or it could have been right when you, is that East Grand Forks League.
Yep.
With the 10U, I think that's a big draw to make
It is.
more kids come out, because instead of just having a game here and there, they've got a lot of games.
Yep.
And it's against different teams, and I think it's a real good thing.
Yeah, moving forward too, I have some ideas to bring to the table for some programs through the summer for next year, so.
Yeah, and then if you guys continue on, if you look at the bottom of page 3, you're gonna see other improvements, and he's gonna spell it out. The capital improvements was the last sheet that I gave you, and you'll see how it's broke out, that $11,000, where he's coming up with $1,000 for your picnic benches, $5,000 for your matching funds, and then another $5,000 for resurfacing the pickleball courts. And then that's, you know, just as you continue to keep flipping through your sheets, all the salaries in those, you know, were all increased by that 3.5%. And if you see something proposed higher than what the current year was, he's gonna have a note that's going to outline what was increased with that. And probably in this next one, you're going to see the communications, we increased that to 8.6%. And that was based off of the current bills that we're actually getting at the city and that we're seeing now. So we decided, well, let's make a standard rate of 8.6 then for all of those expenses that we are seeing coming forward with that. And then again, too, now, that one is the swimming pool, and you know, we've had a lot of, expense that has gone on at the swimming pool. We've also taken from reserves last year to help with the pool costs, but still you're going to see where we added the 15,000, as in prior year with the pool improvements of $15,000. And you'll see that he has a note with that, that the water heater is gonna probably need to be replaced. And just a couple of the things that he's anticipating now and getting some quotes that he's gotten on that. So he's been looking at trying to forecast what all we're going to need for maintenance to keep these things running.
Just on chemicals, happened to catch my eye, the prices have risen 46%.
I did a lot of research on that to get that number, and 46%.
Wow.
And what's interesting about that is Scott Budd last year, when we were doing the budget, said the cost of chlorine is gonna go through the roof because of one of the major suppliers had a fire.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Well, it was almost to a point where they couldn't find chlorine, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there was a shortage.
Yep. And then the next one is the Highland Complex, and you'll see on his CIP that he's put 40,000 in there. And I would encourage you to look at that line, because there is a significant increase from 5,000 up to 40,000. So when you look at those other improvements there, you'll see how he's kind of listed those out of all the improvements there that he would like to get done.
And that's on the bottom of page 8, correct, Ryan?
Page 8,
Yes. Yep.
You look at the bottom of page 8, and then compare it to your CIP, Ray Eklund Complex, 40,000, those correlate. That's how he gets to his CIP.
And I just want to point out the significant highlights here, what has gone way up, besides the utilities and some of those things. And then next is the skating rink, and you'll notice a few changes, nothing real major there. Your cost of rink construction and repair, he increased that just a couple of $1,000s. But that's, with his note, you'll see that it's the 2 outdoor rinks in town that he wants to keep up, so they get better utilized. And then if we continue on to page 11 for the downtown square. You know, there wasn't any real significant increases with that. And then the arena expense, and this is, you know, one where you're going to probably see some higher costs of inflation and just the cost of building materials and such that it does take to run. And I know that he's got some estimates and bids that he's currently working on. You want to talk about what the estimates and bids you've been working on for the arena?
This is on page 14.
Yeah,
So
say
you're
the
looking
page
at it.
before you start there so we can.
Yeah, page 14, you're talking about utilities and other improvements.
Yep. So the other improvements, well, let's start up in utilities. I was probably a few months ago now this spring, we came to you guys and I was talking to you guys about the controls and the HVAC system out there and how they're running wide open. I sat down with Corky and we talked and I was looking for an outside like an independent company to come in, analyze what's going on, find the solution, and then bring it back to you guys. I did find a company, but in between that, we had a company that I think Amy had set, right, Corky, with that.
And we had a buildings and go through all our facilities.
Yep.
There's a facilities examination. Is that what you're talking
Yep.
about? Okay.
So I have not contacted that other company that I'm talking about, the independent company, yet. I want to wait to see what that report says to the CSC. But like I said before, and we've talked before, utility prices are going up, but we also have issues with that HVAC system where we're running, wide open, and I don't have a solution for it yet, but.
Yeah, that's one of the major issues at the CSC.
Yes, and
But can I just clarify, was this the issue where like both companies who were like partly responsible for it were not taking responsibility for their portion
We
of?
talked to one HVAC system and they
Right.
did the controls and then Chuck
Right.
controls the
And they're saying it's,
HVAC.
yeah.
So I went out and I found an independent company that they don't care.
They don't sell us products.
Right,
They're here to
right.
examine,
They're gonna
give us a
examine.
report.
So, but I found one, I was looking for another one, I couldn't find another one, but this company, this SEH, the company that Amy initially, I think.
They did the facility
facilities,
study,
yeah.
we're waiting for the
Yeah,
report.
we had that a month or two ago now, and now I'm just waiting on that report to see what it says. And
So that should provide some clarity as to where
that's my hope.
issue,
Yep.
okay. And if not, then you would go with the
So-
other independent
yes.
contractor, okay.
So we still have the issue with that
Yeah.
not running
Yeah,
correctly.
well, it's off now because it's summer, but yes, we still have that issue. So therefore, we're not being so efficient with.
That's a double whammy for us, Councilman, Councilman, woman. It's a double whammy. It's running at 100% when it should be running at 60. But we're paying 40% increase for the same amount that's going through there, but it's running at 100%. It's a double whammy.
So it's 140% is what you're saying? In cost?
Even more, perhaps.
So with the cost of utilities, if we got that fixed, that could be huge.
Yeah.
It could be tremendously, the expenditure could be tremendously reduced. And for a $9,800 expenditure, potentially, identifying the problem, suggesting a solution,
But
can
it's
be
just
a
not
double benefit.
It's a one-time expense, but a year after year savings.
Potentially, yes, because we reduce the capacity at which it operates, which means we use less gas, which is at a higher rate. So yeah, it could be tremendous.
I know this is neither here nor there, but hopefully in the future that we get into deals with contracts, it's gonna back up their work. I don't understand what would happen when nobody here, but I don't understand
Like,
why.
I think the issue is that no one's taking responsibility and they're pointing the finger at the other
Right,
part of the
but-
company. And so in order for us to prove like where the issue is, like we can't really go after or say, hey, this is an issue, right?
And a policy that we've instituted, Amy Finch started, and I'm hoping to continue. Nothing leaves to be signed by anyone here unless it's been reviewed by legal.
Yes.
There was some hesitancy in the past, that's fine. But now, at least as it exists, that's what we do.
I agree with that.
I also think it's gotta be, if
So
it
moving
doesn't
on
work,
to
we
other
don't pay 'em.
improvements.
I also think it's gotta be, if it doesn't work when they get done, we don't pay them. Cause I mean, these two companies have all been paid out, and you're not gonna get them to come back here.
Well, Tom, and that's one of the things that we're hoping to introduce as contracts come forward. Most contracts that I dealt with in the private sphere before I started doing city work and city administration work, there was a retention policy. You retained a certain amount of the payment amount until there was a walkthrough and a statement, it's performing, now we pay you the rest. Typically 10%, but it can be as high as 20%, depending on how each contract is negotiated.
But when we came into that building though, it was working the way it should have been working. We
That was
just
the
been,
problem, yeah, I mean, it worked for a year, basically, you know.
well, I don't know how long it worked.
But I mean, that's the problem, is when something goes a heck 3 years, but it costs $500,000 to replace it.
Yeah.
You know.
Crazy.
And nothing is going to get paid that you guys don't see and approve before the check ever goes in the mail. That policy is not gonna change.
Right.
So you wanna talk about the other improvements?
Yep, moving on to other improvements. In the CIP, we have an electric Zamboni, just a battery reserve, so just in case anytime our batteries and our Zambonis, you know, are
Well, I thought that every so many years that they had to be replaced,
Yes.
and we just build every year, we do that entry for 5,000, so when they need to be replaced, it's in the reserve funds, we grab that, and then we're able to pay them. And we won't have to use any more.
No more than me.
Well, I learned this last year with Scott.
Okay, perfect. And then 10,000 for arena improvements, you know, in case something happens where it breaks down, you need to fix or improve it. And then just some other ideas, you know, like, on the west wall over there, the big white wall by the playground, pictures or paintings or something like that would be a good idea to spice up the rink, or eventually maybe putting some different, or pub style tables they're called. I put them in the blue rink this year. They're kind of nice to just lean on and watch a hockey game. So just improvements like that to the rink.
Those there could get sponsored. I mean, look at what they did out at Valley Tech with those round tables.
Yeah.
Those are nice.
You know, and if they could do that and have it, you know, from certain places or whatever.
I went through.
You could offer that.
I went through Travis Oliver with the school this year, and the only thing, we just paid for material, so it wasn't.
No, I get
we
that.
paid, and it was inexpensive, you know, but
There again,
they did a good job, so.
And then the next one is the senior citizen program. And those letters to all the organizations will be going out here real soon. And at the end of July, they'll have to have them back. But then at that time, Corky and I will bring to you all of the requests of all the organizations asking for money. Besides sending out the letter, we're gonna put a note up on our webpage about it, that if they want to, they can just go to our webpage and do the same criteria with asking the city for funds.
We also have that in the socials.
Yeah. Yep.
okay, I'd asked them, being liaison to the Golden Link, to have their proposed budget by the 4th of July. I didn't think you were gonna get this quickly to being here, so, we're working at the plan by next
And
week.
there'll be a
sometime.
deadline, Councilman.
Yeah,
Ryan
that's why I
and I
want to give
will
them
establish.
about a month, you
right,
know,
so-
give them some time. But then this also allows you guys time to look at all of them and decide, since it's gonna be such a tough year.
And I think we've added one or two already, new organizations that Ryan and I have identified as potentially asking, give them the opportunity.
And if you guys know of an agency that you feel should be contacted, let me know, and I'll definitely send out a letter to them also.
Okay.
Okay, then the last one here is the Municipal Parks. As you kind of go through that, you're going to see different increases. I would encourage you to look at the notes also. The one that Jake and I kind of talked a bit more about today was the repairs, and I asked him to put a little bit more detail in there of the age of the equipment that he is repairing and why he's asking for so much that he was there. And then, the very last page is, the trees, and we just kind of left that the same as what it has been in the past.
You know, I like the way you got it set up here, and I like the, you know, the explanations and stuff, but you're asking for a lot more money than you've been asking for lately too, so.
So you know that applies to everything.
No, I know.
When
I
you ask
know
for
that.
more money, you better be able to justify
Yeah,
it.
so I'm just saying, I think that the way that this is laid out, that it's really helpful.
Yeah, I just want you to have the most information you can to make a good informed decision. And thank you guys for your time tonight and allowing us to go through this preliminary. I think we both got some good information and some feedback to go forth and go back to our teams and look at it and see what else we can do to make it better.
And as always, if any of you council people have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact Jake, Ryan, or myself about a question, and we'll be more than happy to address it when we can, when we have an answer for you.
Yeah, thanks for giving us 6 months to worry about this.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's better than the alternative.
Yes,
Thank you
agreed.
for giving us this way ahead of time. It's really good for us.
Very thoughtful.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you.
we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.